Alright, what's going on, everybody? We're doing a tier list today of UFC 314. I know it's a day or two late, I'm sorry about that. We have the whole card here, every single fight. We're going to rank it on a tier list from fight of the night all the way down to Lerone Murphy, the most boring thing you can watch. Let's kick it off with the very first fight of the night, which was Cohen versus Cornell. This was a finish. Cohen was controlling the whole first round, and then Cornell actually got a submission. In terms of the whole card, though, probably put it in C tier. It wasn't the worst fight on the card, but the first round was just 100% stalling. It was very boring to watch until the finish, and the finish was exciting, but in terms of the whole fight, there wasn't much going on. Neither of these ladies are ranked, so it was a very low stakes fight, and the opening fight of the whole card, so it wasn't a lot of crowd pop or excitement in the arena yet. But, you know, it perfectly middle-of-the-road fight to start the night. We got a finish, which was exciting. Next fight, we have Gore versus Tulio. I'm giving this my fight of the night. I thought that Tulio looked absolutely insane. He looked like he was in flow state. Now, I know fight of the night on both ends, you might say like, oh, well, if one guy looked flow state, how is it fight of the night? Gore, while much less is what he was landing, he still was cracking Tulio from time to time. Like, he would get hit with a 15-piece combo and then just smoke an overhand right, and it would absolutely wobble Tulio. This fight was an insanely technical striking war. It is such a shame that Tulio did not get a performance bonus. It's honestly ridiculous. Like, Dana, what are you doing? This was a fantastic fight. Just instantly set the bar super high, and this card did deliver, but this fight, I was locked in watching this. Tulio is on my radar 100% as a serious contender in this division. I know Gore's not the best. He's a bit streaky. He's hit or miss, but I mean, Gore still stood his own ground, threw back some pretty hard shots, but Tulio, just some of the things he was throwing was absolutely insane. If you guys did not get a chance to watch this fight, I would go back and watch it. End of the first round, Tulio lands a spinning heel kick to the head. Gore lands a crazy overhand right. Both guys are trading bombs. This was just the most fun thing you could possibly watch. Next up, we had Sumiraji versus Mitch Raposo. I'm going to put this one in D tier. Now, this was the opposite of the Torres-Finney fight from last week. Mitch had a whole bunch of control time, barely any strikes, and they gave Sumiraji the decision because he did do the more damage, he did land more strikes. And, you know, you can't complain about it. I mean, it's annoying to see such a vast inconsistency in the scoring where one guy can win and the other guy can lose, and they're mirror match fights. If you watched Finney from last week versus this Mitch Raposo performance from this week, practically the same fight, except I think Mitch landed more than Finney did. But either way, it was very boring to watch. Mitch was just clinching for dear life. Sumiraji would try and fight back and land in the breaking exchanges, but not a lot of action going on here. Definitely one of the most... Not a lot of action going on here. Definitely one of those boring fights on the card for sure. Next up, we had Cedric Dumas versus Mikhail Onzechuk. I'm going to give this one a B tier. Mikhail got a TKO finish. It was pretty good. Cedric is... I mean, I predicted it to go this way. I predicted the KO. It didn't go exactly as I thought, but overall, it was a bit of a sloppy finish. It wasn't a super clean TKO, but it was still a finish nonetheless. I think the fight was a bit more exciting overall than the Cornell versus Cohen, and then we had a good post-fight interview with Mikhail and the Fighting Nerds. It was overall just a good thing to watch at the end there, but it doesn't quite reach the higher tiers, I'd say. Next up, we had Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa, and I'm going to put this one in C tier. This was also a finish, but this was just sanctioned elder abuse. Darren Elkins has no place in the UFC Octagon anymore. And like they have similar records. Julian Erosa is also a vet, but this was a beatdown. Julian would pop him with jabs in the first round, and it would just completely smoke and drop Elkins. He looked lost. It was hard to watch. It wasn't fun to watch. It was, like I said, elder abuse. Yes, he got the finish, but it was pretty rough. I'll put it that way. Erosa should look for a bit more competent and equal level competition for his next fight, I think, and honestly, Elkins needs to retire. Next up, we had Chase Hooper versus Jim Miller. This was a pretty anticipated matchup. Chase Hooper being a minus 1,000 favorite on the betting odds. And I'm putting this in Lerone Murphy tier. This was the most boring thing on the entire card. Just stalling from Hooper. A lot of control. Not a lot of action from either guy. Like a 20-year age difference. And, you know, whereas Elkin versus Arosa, I said it was elder abuse, but there was still a finish there. This one went to decision. Hooper even said at the end, he said, like, you know, stop feeding me these old guys. And it just wasn't fun to watch. It wasn't fun to watch Jim Miller just get, you know, hung on to for 15 minutes and kind of grabbed and thrown around. And it wasn't fun to watch Chase Hooper do that. So for that reason, I'm putting this in the Lerone Murphy tier. It was the worst thing that we watched, and it was just the least entertaining thing on a card that was very good and had a lot of entertainment value. And next up, we had Yan Xiaonan versus Verna Jandiroba. I am going to put this one in D tier. Some high-level grappling exchanges, pretty dominant from Jandiroba's side. Yan couldn't really get anything going. I picked Yan. Like I said in my video, though, I thought it was a coin flip. I was like, whoever shows up will win. As for a lot of the top-level women's MMA matches, they're hard to predict. You just don't know who's going to show up after looking so good in their last fights, both of them. But not a lot of action, not a lot of striking. Also, just a decision. And I'd say these three round out the most boring and worst performances of the card. As we move forward, all either exciting fights or finishes. And here we have Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. I'm going to put the fight in B tier. Now, I know that the stoppage was super controversial and everyone's saying, oh, it's the worst stoppage ever. It wasn't. It's not the worst stoppage ever. It's not even one of the worst stoppages of the year. People just need to get over early stoppages, and I understand you don't want to see you know, Woodson probably could have fought back, but he hadn't thrown back a strike in like 30 straight strikes from Ige. He was down every single round on the scorecards, and he was going to be down that round. That was the worst round for Woodson, performance-wise. So, now I'm not trying to justify the stoppage, but look, it had me excited. A little bit of bias. I was super hyped to see Ige beat Woodson. I don't like Woodson. I think he's a freaky alien. How are you taller than me and you weigh 85 pounds less than me? Like, you should not be making 120 or 145 if you're 6'1" or 2. It's just ridiculous. He bullies everybody with his height and weird lank. And Ige was actually able to get it done, albeit a slightly weird stoppage, which was why I'm not putting it in A or obviously giving it my fight of the night. But it was good to see Ige get the win. He looked good. He looked clean. People were mentioning strike differential. Woodson was throwing these little, you know, pitter-patter jabs, and Ige was landing power shots. And Ige got it done, which I'm happy for him. Next up, we have Krylov versus Reyes. Straight into A tier. Reyes is back. Vintage performance. So hype. I flew off the couch. I was screaming at my TV. This had me absolutely insane, going crazy. Not a lot of people picked Reyes. He was an underdog. And, you know, I kept saying, though, like, I picked Reyes by KO in my video for predictions. I said Krylov's had a massive layoff. And then getting into the cage, we find out that Krylov has given up his Ukrainian citizenship and become a Russian citizen. Like, this crazy turncoat just scenario was so ridiculous. We had Reyes go in there and get a knockout, American versus now Russian, in front of the United States president, and they didn't even give him a performance bonus. It's shameful. It was one of the best singular performances on the entire card. So clean. Shades of Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo as Krylov rushed in. Beautiful, beautiful knockout. I cannot believe that finally, after years of it being hard to be a Reyes fan, you know, 4 losses in a row, to now 3 KOs in a row. He's in the top 10 now. He's 1 away from a title shot, honestly, or 2 away. But he's in there. He's in that mix. He's in that top 10. He's in that top 8 now. And we get to see some super fun matchups for Reyes in the future, and that was an awesome performance. Next up, we had Jean Silva versus Bryce Mitchell. I'm giving this A tier as well. Now, I did pick Mitchell. I am mistaken there. You know, I'll own up when I'm wrong. I never claim to be like a god of my predictions or anything. I just make my case for who I think's gonna win, and Mitchell really lacked in the striking department. He couldn't get his takedowns going, and Silva just showed levels, man. This guy is absolutely insane, literally insane. Like, stopped his interview to go and grab onto the cage and start barking. He's a nut job, but he's very exciting to watch. And he got a submission over Bryce Mitchell. It was pretty nasty. I see him getting a good top 10, maybe top 5 opponent next. Really good finish all around. Super great performance from John Silva. Now next up we had Yair versus Pitbull. I'm giving this one B tier. It was a decision. It was definitely more exciting of a fight overall than the fights below it. But I can't put it any higher than these other finishes. And, you know, there was here and there exciting moments, but both guys fought a little bit conservatively. It was kind of lame. Yair stalled like the last 15 seconds and didn't, like they were pointing to the middle they wanted to throw, but also Pitbull didn't really engage. I don't know. I think that Dana made this matchup to make Pitbull look bad. It was like, okay, either Yair loses and we have a new contender, or we prove why we're better than Bellator and our top 5 guy gets a win, and you know, it's another matchup for the champion. So not the most exciting fight, but definitely one of the more exciting decisions. Yeah, it was fine. Yair looked good in moments. Pitbull didn't really get going at all. I'd like to see Pitbull back in there, you know, with maybe a top 10 guy. Maybe you do a Pitbull versus Josh Emmett, you know, something along those lines. A Pitbull versus Dan Ige. He was coming off a win, 13 against an unranked. Give him another unranked, but a guy with way more value. I don't know. There's matchups for him. Yair, I think he should just fight Diego Lopez. He's calling for a title shot. I don't think he should get it, but it was an alright fight. It didn't really move the needle too far in the featherweight division, but you know, it was fun to watch for the most part. And next up we had, to me, the most surprising fight on the card. I'm giving this A tier. This is Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler, and wow, this showed true levels. Paddy silenced all the doubters, myself included. I gotta admit when I'm wrong. Like I said, Paddy blew me away. This was the exact opposite of what I was expecting from Paddy Pimblett, in the sense of I thought Paddy was going to use his wrestling more and Chandler was going to be striking with him, but no, man, Paddy he was outclassing Chandler in the striking. I've never seen Chandler look that disfigured after a fight. He didn't even stay for the announcement of the winner for the hand raise. He instantly left and went to the hospital. And this is the worst we've ever seen Chandler take a loss, and it's to the opponent that we all had the biggest question marks about, was Paddy. You know, I'd said that Paddy was untested, unproven, and he proved me wrong. This dude had a better performance against Chandler than Charles Oliveira did. And, you know, there are some fire matchups for Paddy in the future. And Chandler, it's just left with this question of, dude, you're, you know, 1-4 in your last 5. You're getting up there in age. Where do you go from here? I don't really know. I'm sure there's some matchups of some guys. I've heard people say like Moicano or maybe a Dariush matchup, but Paddy really surprised me, and that was just a stellar, fantastic performance. And now we have the main event, Volkanovski versus Lopez. I'm going to also give this one A tier. This was a very exciting fight, back and forth. I know the stats make it look super lopsided for Volk, but it was kind of a, you know, Volk has a very powerful jab. Lopez was hitting more power shots. Really good back and forth. Both guys did a lot of damage. Volk broke the 35 and older curse. He got his title back. He engraved himself as the greatest featherweight of all time, in my opinion. He's the GOAT. It's official. I had Lopez winning, but, you know, it was a close fight. It went to a decision. Lopez is still young. I think he'll get back in there. I think he'll make some improvements, maybe on his activity a bit more, try and utilize the wrestling a bit more. But, man, I'm happy for Volkanovski. Overall, 314 was a fantastic card, guys. So much fun to watch. Such a breath of fresh air after the last, you know, month of UFC being so bad. And I cannot wait for next week's Carlos Prates versus Ian Gary card. It looks fantastic for a fight night. I'll obviously be doing a tier list for that one, of course, and I might even do another video later this week giving some predictions for the main card on that guy. And yeah, we'll see ya.